Hey everyone, welcome to the first BRAP for the month of November. It's it's great to be back at a regular scheduled time Wednesday. We had a special BRAP last Friday, but happy to be back and got Lee Hampton, or Hamp as he's known, with us, and then the other panelists are rejoining here in a little bit. But Hamp, how are you this evening, man?
I think that's especially Lee Hampton, who's my understanding is the new handle.
Especially Lee Hampton. Exactly. It's pretty funny, man.
I'm good, man. I don't know. I am disappointed but glad to be here.
Why are you disappointed, man?
I didn't accomplish the things that I had set out to get done today. I took a part day off work, mainly because I am not, as I think I've mentioned before, I'm not mechanical. So like computer stuff, digital stuff, managing everybody's cell phones, like the entire family is on my family plan, right, for cell phones. Like that's my thing. Right, whenever I get approached about like paint this or the car this or what, I'm like, Roger that. I'll go hire somebody to do that. It's not my thing.
That's me, by the way. That's a
so I also do not do furniture assembly of any type.
No IKEA?
But no, not whatsoever. Dude, I will troubleshoot a family. Well, I won't troubleshoot a family member's network problem remotely. I've done that once, and now I have a strict no remote network assistance policy. But I will troubleshoot people's digital stuff all day long. But I will not do furniture assembly or any type of assembly. So it is Animal Planet in my house right now, with 2 cats, a hamster, a fish, a snail, and 3 dogs. So we had an escape a few weekends ago of the hamster, and so shortly thereafter I bought a new hamster habitat, because the hamster is in a makeshift thing now because somebody watched a bunch of YouTube and decided that was the best thing for the hamster. So I bought a appropriately, corporate, anti-consumer, cash grab style hamster habitat, and I need to put that. I need to put it together, and it's the type of thing I know I will not do unless I take like a day off of work, because I won't use my own personal like video game time to do it. So that was my whole plan for the day. However, work phone calls kept constantly coming in, so I actually didn't get that done. I only got that partially complete.
Oh, gotcha. No worries, man. Look, I'm not a fan of assembling furniture myself, especially IKEA, because whatever like instructions they gave you just never really makes sense. But it is what it is. So we got quite a bit to talk about, actually. Big PlayStation news as relates to PlayStation VR2. God of War Ragnarok reviews are coming tomorrow. We'll talk about that. There's some other gaming related news topics that we'll get into as well. But look, want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat who is with us right now. I'm going to drop a link here in the there we go. Drop the link there in the live chat. Please do me a favor and retweet the link. Let everyone know that we're live. So actually, I probably need to do that on Twitter as well. Let everyone know that we are live too. But so Hamp, let me ask you a question, man. We were talking about Call of Duty, and I'm sorry, hold on a sec here. I'm typing. I clearly can't multitask tonight. BRAP is live. Come join us. That's my tweet. Hey, speaking of Twitter, man, what do you? Oh man. Hold on a sec here. So speaking of Twitter, man, the deal between Elon Musk now owns Twitter. Elon Musk also retweeted a conspiracy theory of Paul Pelosi being attacked by his quote unquote gay lover, which is a rumor that's being put out there by the very extreme right of the conservative movement, if you will. Look, I don't know, man. Like I'm not, I've seen articles, people saying that, and then Nibble, is it Nibel or Nibble? I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyhow, I followed him, and because he was a great news aggregate for Twitter. So a Nibble, his handler was at Nibellion. He is left Twitter, and he actually did cite. He talked about like his attempts to create a reliable revenue stream that didn't work out. He had a Patreon that just didn't work out. But he actually mentioned something in his like farewell tweet, if you will, where he says, "Then there's the elephant in the room, which is the platform itself." He's talking about Twitter. "I don't think that Twitter has yet experienced good leadership, and this trend will not change with Musk either. I do not trust the platform. I do not trust Musk and his seemingly infinite immaturity," which I don't disagree with Nibellion there. I do think Elon's a little out there. Especially his tweeting of a conspiracy theory, which he eventually deleted. But he says, "I do not think Twitter will fall apart instantly, but that it could die a slow death. Why waste more time?" So that was Nibellion's last. That was the last paragraph of his farewell tweet. So, I don't know. Let me ask you something, Hamp. I mean, there's been a couple articles about Elon Musk and him owning his ownership of Twitter and his ownership being more detrimental to Twitter than anything else, where he's talking about charging. One of the things he's proposing is to charge people with the blue check marks $8 a month to have that check mark. And my concern with Elon Musk is his not necessarily being of the opinion that social media platforms should maybe police themselves a bit, or that, hey, it's freedom of speech, and we shouldn't we shouldn't silence those who maybe spread misinformation or disinformation, which I don't agree with. I think I would prefer a platform that clamps down on those things, and it has nothing to do with whether you sit on the right or left. But I just think that misinformation can be dangerous. We saw that with, you and I have talked about this, Hamp, a lot. Like the pandemic, the most recent experience, or not most recent experience, but pandemic, and more recently, the insurrection or the storming of the U.S. Capitol, January 6th. But think about like all the people that lost their lives for buying into disinformation as it relates to vaccines and the pandemic. And people literally died because they believe things. And there's articles of people actually, on their deathbeds saying, I should have listened to science, more or less. But anyhow, so what are your thoughts on this, Hamp? Do you think that you think Twitter is going to die a slow death like the Billions kind of hinted at here, or do you think that's maybe overstated?
I think it's probably overstated to a certain extent, and maybe probably. For the most part, what I feel is kind of ambivalence to the whole thing. I have to be careful about treading crossways with things we ourselves preach, right? We often say, look, a price is a price. We see little point in you getting angry about it, right? Be an adult and make a choice. If you don't like a price, just don't buy a thing. And I kind of feel that way about Twitter. I was fine before Twitter got here. If Twitter becomes a problem, I will just leave Twitter. I've left before. And quite honestly, the only reason I came back was because of people that I knew here, who for them, it was just easier to contact me through Twitter. So, and even as I talk about like the gaming industry, right, people get overwrought about, mass consolidation and, things Microsoft is doing is killing gaming. And I'm like, no, things that many people are doing is killing gaming, including things consumers are doing. And eventually the gaming industry will die and it will topple over, or it will become such an abusive relationship between supplier and consumer that it will, be like the relationship between a dealer and an addict. and those things will happen. They will probably not happen until after my lifetime. And so, I do what I choose to do, and whatever happens, happens. I'm not sitting here on the edge of my seat worried about Twitter toppling over. Twitter's not some, flag waving, emblazoning, symbol of freedom. It's interesting. I think the most interesting thing is, I've been one who has consistently railed against the misplaced notion of free speech, right? People go onto social media platforms and say, I can say whatever I want, and if I'm moderated, then that's impugning my free speech. I'm like, no, it's not. Free speech is a constitutional right. It guarantees you the ability to go to a public town square that is on some type of communal property and express your own opinions in any way that you see fit within the boundaries of the law. Nobody ever said that you could express free speech in a way that was illegal, right? That's why there are multiple branches of the government. But, also you have no legal recourse that assures your ability to go express free speech on a privatized platform that has its own terms of service, and is some type of commercial arrangement underneath a licensing agreement between you and the parties who own that platform, right? Twitter is not a government-owned platform. If it were a government-owned platform, then you would have some notion of free speech, but you don't. So what's very interesting now is we kind of see a reversal of that, philosophy that I myself have expressed and many others have as well. And now what we have is someone who is an owner of a privatized platform who is saying, you can have free speech here. And so it'll be very interesting to kind of see how that operates. For a very long time, for a very long time, we've had other platforms like that, like Reddit has some very dark corners still to this day, even though there were lots of propaganda that was going to be reversed, and they temporarily had a CEO that was trying to clean house, and then she got ousted. And there's less of that there now. There's less of it, particularly kind of in the forefront. And there's not the bragging about that by Reddit that there used to be. But still, Reddit has some very diseased corners of that platform, which is why I don't participate in it. And so in the same way, if Twitter goes that same route, I will just not participate in Twitter the same way that I don't participate in Reddit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Hamp. Like I would if the wheels fell off Twitter, I would, for me at least, I'd be done. I'd be like, I'm going to go somewhere else. But I think it's interesting because I'm just wondering because this is the idea, I think, of charging the folks with the blue check marks. Like I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Like, are they going to pay for that? Or are they going to be like, screw you, Elon, like we're out of here, But either way, I think, if Twitter becomes a place where it's just super toxic, and it just doesn't serve serve the needs that, my needs, then I'm out, and I'll just find another platform. I'll just move on.
And that's one of my for instances of where there's, even in things that appear to be motivated by evil, there are silver linings. For instance, the notion of charging. Now, I mean, I think there's a downside of this notion of charging for blue check marks, because it's been theorized that might mean that the way to get a blue check mark now is just to pay for it. And so that could be a problem. But the positive side to it, to me, is a lot of those people who run around with blue check marks, at least the ones who are press, have zero journalistic integrity. And their press credentials are the same as anybody who works for the National Enquirer. And so, and so, quite frankly, I don't mind them having a broomstick to have to jump over, right, to participate. In fact, I would be fine with it being more than $8, right? You have some considerations of other behaviors that might incentivize, like, does that mean only people from, Rupert Murdoch's camp who, if he decides to subsidize the $20 thing, right, are the only people with blue check marks? So that might be a problem. But, I mean, at least as far as the gaming goes, the people who, say work for publications whose editor-in-chief CEO issued an F-bomb editorial to Elon Musk this past week. People from that website, perchance, who talk about gaming, maybe they would like not be as prevalent as they are if they had to pay a fee because they wouldn't pay for it. So like I said, it's like I say about a lot of things, right? Whether it's a positive or a negative or an overall good or bad or a nothing burger, right? It always depends on the aggregate, not on the singular perspective of anything that's going to go on. So, much like it's interesting to watch the Microsoft ATVI M&A, it'll be interesting to see, how this goes. I'm also trying to look. I don't know what I've done with Musk. I don't know if I muted him or blocked him or whatever. But there was a point as a technologist, like I was very positive about the things he was doing, the products he was trying to make. I personally believe in that, eventually at some point, the way forward is to get the hell off this planet. People who are pushing in that direction, I want to see them succeed. So it's hard for me to reconcile somebody who's making at least efforts in that direction, with the notion that they are also potentially a destructive force with regards to the social media platform that I'm on. So,
yeah,
like I said, it'll be interesting to see how it pays out.
Intelligent individual, but then retweets that dumbass conspiracy theory about Paul Pelosi.
Oh, he's definitely there was a point, at least from what I saw of him, where the intellect was the most prevalent thing. But now, for some time now, since the point where I muted or blocked him, he has flipped the corner to being what a lot of very smart people are, which is
crazy,
full on crazy. Yeah.
I mean, some of the craziest people are actually some of the most intelligent people in the world. But, it's just, I'm also, like I said, I'm interested to see what happens with some of the changes. But for me, again, like it's a situation where, if the platform just sucks, I'm just going to go somewhere else, and that's, I feel like that's important to say, because I've seen some people say things like, oh my God, what are we going to do if Twitter, sucks or becomes this terrible place, and you go somewhere else. Like somebody will come up with another platform. I mean, like it just, I don't know. Anyhow. So I just wanted to bring that up real quickly. Also want to give a super chat from Borbor Country. Oh man, good old Borbor in the house. What's up, Borbor? Says with the $2 super chat, says he being Elon Musk benefited from apartheid. He should be better. Thank you for that super chat, Borbor Country. And then we have we have Sanu.com with the $2.99 super chat. Says Elon Musk is Ted Faro and Andor is a masterpiece. Andor is a really good show. I would agree. So thank you for that super chat. So Hamp, I was told that Call of Duty isn't that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So Modern Warfare 2 has officially released, and gosh, I wish Slumbo was here so we talk a little bit about some of the issues that we've come across since this game's launch. Now I started playing the game 2 weeks early because I had the pre-purchase, and was playing through the campaign, didn't really have any issues, and ever since the retail release, the single player campaign's been crashing for me. Now, it did happen a couple times when I was playing during the early release, but now it's much worse. Like it's pretty consistent. So I haven't gone back to the campaign, but I did play a little bit of the, or I have been playing some of the, some of the multiplayer. But I'll hold off the multiplayer piece here. But Call of Duty has just set a new record for the best selling weekend in the franchise's history, bringing a total of 800 million worldwide in sell-through after only 3 days of the market. I should say after 3 days on the market, according to Activision. 800 million. This beats the previous franchise record set by 2011's Modern Warfare 3, which brought in 775 million across a 5-day span. So they beat what Modern Warfare 3 did in 3 days versus 5 days. And actually, I do have it's funny, I still have the Modern Warfare 3 poster hung up here in my gaming room. But yeah, Hamp, I mean, this game is just, geez,
it just prints money.
Yeah, I mean, no other. I mean, there's. This is why we're getting. And Phil Spencer's actually come out recently and said that he believes the CMA's review is warranted, which I wouldn't expect Phil Spencer to say otherwise at this point. But yeah, I mean, no one else does this. I mean, this thing is a juggernaut. A juggernaut.
Yeah, and while I wouldn't necessarily expect Phil to say, well, my feeling is it's not that I wouldn't expect him to say otherwise. I definitely wouldn't expect him to say the opposite, that their scrutiny was unwarranted. But quite frankly, I would have expected him to kind of be silent about, like, not giving a tacit nod of approval, right, to their scrutiny. That, I think, the fact that he did that, I think, speaks volumes of his self-awareness and acknowledgement of reality, right? That seems to be a trait that a lot of his fans seem to not have in common. Which I fail to understand.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was very astute of him to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's, we've all said, I mean, I don't think anyone with a reasonable mind, I don't think would disagree and think that this is isn't warranted. I mean, and I think, if you look at Call of Duty now.
But BRAP, so many people have.
No, I know. Many people, that's the unfortunate part, man. To your point, some of the people that worship Phil Spencer don't have the same level of self-awareness as he does. But yeah, I mean, like, if you're a reasonable person and understand how the regulatory bodies work, you wouldn't feel any other way that other than that they're doing the work that these agencies do. And given the scope of this acquisition and just the zeitgeist of Call of Duty, and again, we pull back these numbers, 800 million sell through, and after 3 days of the market, I mean, what other? I mean, Hamp, who's close to that? Maybe Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I honestly can't say, because admittedly, I tend to not, and I get it. I'm not saying it's inappropriate. I tend not to pay that much attention to these, like, small window victory laps. I think they're important as a marker, right, to compare, right, to sell through of other games, but long term, right, I don't know that they mean a whole lot. At the end of the day, the only thing that's important is that, Call of Duty is off to a big head start and has a lot more velocity out of the gate than its past iterations of, which probably speaks volumes about what it's going to do long term. It's obviously going to, right, the super scary thing about Call of Duty to me is how the thing drops in October, November each year, and by the end of the year is still either number one or number two best-selling game for the entire year, right?
Yeah, is that wild?
And not to throw any shade at the game, but just to compare, right, the significance and the relevancy of the numbers. Elden Ring came out in February. Call of Duty is going to be ahead of it in terms of units sold by the end of the year, right? And that is not solely impressive, but it's significant, and right, and which is why my whole thing about Phil Spencer saying the scrutiny is warranted. This is the reason why, right? Because, as now Elden Ring is most likely going to compete very tightly against Ragnarok for Game of the Year, and Call of Duty won't, right? And so the critical reception is going to be different. However, the commerciality of Call of Duty, the money that it generates is why it's getting why the deal is getting the scrutiny that it's getting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's now I don't know what the last year's Call of Duty did, but I don't think it
didn't do anywhere near. I mean, it didn't do as well as Black Ops Cold War had. It was a downturn right from the previous year. So it wouldn't have been anywhere near these numbers.
But if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the Modern Warfare games tend to be like the top sellers of the of Call of Duty games.
Yeah, that I'm not certain about, because my belief is that the Black Ops games are more popular for multiplayer, is what I believe. Not certain, but I think that's the case. Yeah. But now Infinity Ward will get the ring knocker now for not only for Modern Warfare, but more especially for Warzone, since those two are tightly coupled. And Warzone obviously has rocketed off to popularity right beyond maybe arguably the traditional multiplayer.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War 5.7 million within its first month. Call of Duty 2, no, that's old. Let's go. Let me move down the list here, because these are Infinite Warfare. I remember that game. Hold on a sec here. I'm trying to look. Call of Duty Black Ops was huge. I think this is an old article. I'll have to go back and look at this, man. I'm trying to pull up like the best-selling Call of Duties, but I'll have to look it up. Yeah, but I think you're right. Black Ops is definitely up there because I'm seeing it. Actually, the first Black Ops, according to this article, and this article's when this article come out, this is the article's about a year old, had Black Ops at like 30.72 million sold. Jesus, that's a lot, man. And let's see here. He had 30.72 million copies sold. And right behind that would have been Modern Warfare 3 at 30.71 million copies sold total. Now, Modern Warfare 3 had sold 6.5 million copies in the first 24 hours.
Yeah, and total copies sold. So my comment was more so that I think for multiplayer, I think the Black Ops titles tend to be more popular. Not saying that translates to units sold. I think the Infinity Ward versions of Modern Warfare would probably sell better because they typically include both a single-player campaign and multiplayer, whereas there have been multiple iterations of Black Ops that I think did not include a single-player campaign. So people would have only bought those to play the multiplayer, and that would have meant that people who were into it for the single-player would have just never bought those games.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this thing is a juggernaut. I mean, there's literally, like you said, this will be the top selling game of 2022. It'll do that in 2 months.
Yep. And then and then on top of that, it will also we'll see numbers come out about revenue generation, and it'll also be up there as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, yeah.
Meaning, not just sales, but then also sales plus microtransactions plus season passes plus, and that'll be a combined number across, Warzone, the single player sales and multiplayer microtransactions and season passes.
Yep. Now, have you been playing the not the campaign, but the multiplayer since its release?
I have been. Yep.
All right. So what are your thoughts, Hamp, on the multiplayer so far? Because remember, there was a lot of criticism from that I saw on Twitter about, during the beta, and I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would have thought this game was going to be a big, steaming pile of what when it released. I've been playing it, and it just feels like more Call of Duty to me. Obviously, I think there was some. I mean, there's some valid criticism around the footsteps. They were a little bit louder during the beta. They've turned that down. But I think this game, the multiplayer plays like most Call of Duties that I've played. But I don't know, Hamp, what are your thoughts on the multiplayer, man?
Yeah, well, I have some differences of opinion, and I think maybe you and I may have swapped perspectives from the beta to now. That all being said, I think a lot of the Twitter foo-fa was a little fake and disingenuine. Quite honestly, let me just go ahead and throw the conspiracy theory out there. I think it was a lot of people trying to marginalize the value of Call of Duty in preparations for it changing hands. And then so they could kind of, whistle while they walked and, act as if Call of Duty wasn't that big a deal. My own feelings on the multiplayer are, my big problem. So the thing I tweeted out today is most recently over the last year, I would say there has been a theme out in the gaming discussion about, charging franchises with criminality when they arrive without a full feature set. And a lot of that is based on the way past iterations of that game, had those features in them. And an insistence that, hey, things that are being rolled in later should have been there day one. Modern Warfare has a ton of stuff that has historically existed in the Call of Duty franchise that it does not have day one. There is no hardcore mode right now. Ranked mode now, we're talking about not being there till 2023. There's lots of quality of life things like when you get an unlock out of a match, typically you would have an exclamation mark, right? When you go to that weapon in your loadout, the next time after the match, you would typically have an exclamation mark that would tell you, hey, you have something in this subcategory on a weapon that is an unlock that you have not viewed yet. That is not there. And so what you have to do is you have to go in to a weapon, literally go through every single subcategory of attachment to find out what you've unlocked in there. And to me, one of my most important things is optics. Like every time I unlock a new optic, I want to get that thing on the weapon immediately. And it doesn't cue you in that you have a new optic unlocked in the UI. It's a bigger deal this year because now they've gone to this whole weapons platform thing, which I realize now means that you may unlock an optic. So attachments are shared across weapons, sometimes in different categories. So they have battle rifles, and I think tactical rifles or marksman rifles are two different categories now. But optics that you unlock in one category may be able to be attached to a weapon in the other category. And there's zero indication that you've unlocked an optic, right? For either weapon. So you're constantly going through and doing a lot of hash and trash administrivia, trying to keep track of what you've unlocked. And if you don't watch the battle damage assessment screen at the end of a round and you miss, right, the visual cue of what you've unlocked, then you just don't know. That's a problem. And that's a problem in terms of how I spend my time when I'm playing the game. There are, just today, it's a minor thing, but a little shade at you, just not at you, but just as an example. In Halo Infinite, we complain about those opening animations right before the match starts, right?
Yeah.
Well, the opening animations in COD, right, have typically had, whatever operator you were, whatever, outfit or skin you had on, the weapon that you had pegged as your favorite, right, and would typically have you outfitted in the loadout, right, that you had applied. That wasn't there at launch. It just started showing up today. So for the first several days of matches, you just had like a generic operator, and it wasn't even like the game, it wasn't even the operator that you actually like. For both sides, you have like a super generic, like basic operator, right? It's like a ranger for the allies, and it's, so I guess a Chinese soldier probably for the bad guys, so to speak. That's not who appeared right on that opening screen. It was actually like an avatar from the beta or something like that. And that just started today. And then when it first started happening, like that operator would show up, but like the weapon wouldn't be in her hand. So it was just all kinds of stuff. So, so there's some quality of life things. There are some other things that, and what I posted today was, some of those bother me, some of them don't. But my big finger point that I put out on Twitter was like, hey, we've taken other games to task for this, but nobody's saying anything about it for Modern Warfare, right? And so, the question wasn't so much, hey, you guys shouldn't be giving Call of Duty a pass. My question was, well, why are people giving it a pass, right? Is it because, and why did Infinity Ward decide to take this route of rolling some of these things out? Did they just assume nobody was going to notice? Did they assume that their fan base would be tolerant of it and wouldn't be bothered by it? And snipers are still, forgive the language, but snipers are still bullshit in that game. That whole, like, it's just, I've gotten over it because not everyone does it, but it still just bugs the hell out of me that somebody can run around with a sniper rifle using it as a CQB weapon, raise it to sight within 25 yards, right, of somebody running around with a submachine gun and take them out with a one shot. That is
we ran into that last night. Kill confirmed, man. There's one map in particular that we were playing that, like, that was happening. It was like, come on, and
right.
there was actually another not assault rifle, but marksman rifle. I forget the name of it. That was like a little OP. Like, we were playing the Mexican-U.S. border map, whatever, and this guy was just running around. I mean, it was one shot. It was medium range, one shot kill. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. So you mentioned it. I hadn't even mentioned the maps, right? Yeah. So my problem with the current map mix.
Real quick, Camp. By the way, some of the things you mentioned, because I don't play, and I'm glad we're talking about this because you play Call of Duty more than I do. I haven't been diehard Call of Duty. In Warzone, yes, but I fell off Warzone for the last probably almost 9-10 months now, because of the updates with Warzone. I just didn't like what they did, so I stopped playing. But some of the things you mentioned, like I wouldn't be aware of, because I haven't been in Call of Duty like that, playing multiplayer for quite some time. So for me, it's like I wasn't even aware of some of those things you mentioned. But anyhow, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
So then, before I go to the maps, because of the thing you just mentioned, because you had mentioned before the audio, in my opinion, the spatial audio in this iteration is the worst it's ever been. And please understand me, like, there are lots of gamers who typically throw around very caustic terms when they talk about games. I don't. I tread very carefully on those. But the spatial audio in this is just bad. On PlayStation 5 and on PC, I'll be at the edge of the map, so you'll see the red out of bounds, like, geometry, right, where, like, it's no man's land and you're supposed to not be able to go. And I will hear audio right out of an ear cup with my wireless headphones, that would tell me that target is over there in the red zone. And I'm like, that is not where they are, like, clearly, obviously. So I just think I think the spatial audio implementation is just bad right now. Maps, I think at the end of the day, what I'm seeing at this point is that I am probably somebody who prefers the Treyarch approach to level design. What we have this year is we have 6v6 maps, which currently is the only mode that I play. I don't play like essentially the equivalent of big team battle mode, grand invasion, big invasion, something like that. Those maps that are designed for 32v32. So I play on the 6v6 maps. So part of the problem is that when you go into quick play, there are, I think, 3 or 4 maps out of the 10 or 11 map rotation that are utilized for both 6v6 and 32v32. Now, supposedly in the 32v32 modes, they extend the map, which one map on Black Ops Cold War is like that. I can't remember exactly what that map is called, but it's like a Middle Eastern map where it's like extended. And some of the Onslaught maps in Black Ops Cold War are like that too. So the way they're constructed this year is, so first of all, I haven't played on anything that feels like a dedicated CQB map. Everything is kind of this hybrid map. So it has some CQB internal areas, but then it also has some very long sniper alleys, which it depends on how you play. So when you start off multiplayer this year, you only have like 2 perks unlocked. You don't unlock the ability to configure custom loadouts to level 4. And then once you hit that point, there's only like 2 perks. What they call the overkill perk this year, which is what allows you to carry 2 primary weapons, you don't get until like level 20 or 21. I think I just unlocked it. I think I'm level 21 now, and I just unlocked it. So that means during that time period, depending on how you play, then I'm gonna go back to that a little bit later, but you can only carry one primary weapon, right? Which means if you are trying to level submachine guns, right, you pick a submachine gun, you can't carry another primary weapon, you are probably only going to want to play inside the CQB areas of the map. The problem is where you spawn is always outdoors, right in the middle of the freaking sniper alley, and you have to cross multiple sniper lanes, right, to get indoors. So that to me is a problem. You don't have anything that
happened to us last night. What you're describing, it was frustrating.
Yeah, so you don't have anything that's like tight quarters, like Nuketown or Kill House or Shoot House or anything like that in the map rotation right now.
Nuketown, the GOAT. That's all I got to say about that.
Right.
I just remember popping off the FAMAS, and you get like the kill shot, the last kill shot, and you hear the FAMAS in slow motion. Oh, anyhow, I'm sorry, man. Just reminiscing.
Right. So yeah, now the way people get around that, I'm not going to visit bad intentions or, call a bad character. The way people get around that, if you utilize the pre-configured loadouts, like you use the assault loadout, that will grant you access to like the overkill perk. So you could because I don't use those, I don't know what happens if you go into those and I don't even know if you can do weapon swaps. But I would think if you have the overkill perk, that loadout probably gives you 2 like primary weapons instead of 1 primary, 1 secondary. So you can work around it if you so choose. I don't choose to do that because I'm concerned about my progression, right? And so I wanna go through the levels as they're actually laid out. I don't want to take advantage of perks that I haven't actually earned, and I want to spend time right leveling the weapons. And I get it. That's a hard life. You run around with a submachine gun in that game, right? Just as we talked about, where you're gonna have to cut through multiple sniper alleys to get indoors. You're gonna get bodied right for several matches until you earn right all the unlocks you need to actually make your submachine gun potent, and all of that combines into it's just a grind. Now, when I say that, I am starting to feel that maybe the partial admission in that is the memories I have of Call of Duty, and arguably maybe the memories we all have, is the 9 months that you play when you've unlocked almost everything, right? I think what we fail to remember is the first 30 days when you haven't unlocked crap and you're just getting like destroyed, right? By people who have put in hours, because what I was talking about before, where now it looks like attachments are shared across multiple platforms in different categories. I saw people today running around with thermals. Look, even though there's 20-something optics, I'm pretty damn certain that thermal optics does not unlock until very late, right? Which means somebody has been sitting on Modern Warfare 2 putting in like hundreds of hours to the point where they've already unlocked that stuff. So, the rest of us who are kind of have normal game time available, the truth of the matter is, I think for the first until you prestige, right, for the first time, you got a lot of stuff that you got to unlock. It's going to be a grind. Some of that I'm willing to put up with, but like I said, there's a few features, particularly quality of life features, that really kind of have me very cranky because I only have a limited amount of time to spend with it, right? And I don't want to spend all that time, right, checking every stinking attachment category for every weapon platform because I don't get an indicator that tells me when I have something new there.
Yeah, no, it's those are. And by the way, I agree with you on the map stuff, man. Like that was kind of something Slomo and I were discussing last night. We were playing the game live. The other thing that we've come across, at least I didn't. This didn't happen to me. With Slomo, what happened with Slomo? He's playing on his PC. I'm playing on PC as well. Is that which everyone should be playing on PC, by the way, because it is the definitive platform for all gamers globally.
Hey, just a second, Brad. Hey, Boba Fett. If you want to participate and ask us a question, you can do so without being a jerk. If you did unlock something 2 hours in and I'm mistaken, just tell me where I'm wrong. My question is, what thermal was that? What for what weapon and what level did you unlock it at? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
Oh man, I'm reading that comment. People are funny, man. So Slomo had some issues with the game crashing while we were playing multiplayer, and it was like by the way, I want to go back to Boba Fett's comment real quick. Like I don't understand, like, you could say, hey, Hamp, I'm speaking to you, Boba Fett, you could be like, hey, actually I did unlock this particular thermal in 2 hours, just to let you know, but the approach is off. The approach is way off. You don't need to be a Richard Cranium about this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I said that I said that I wasn't absolutely sure, but I assume that it was pretty far down in the progression path.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've had a few minutes. You've had a few minutes now, Boba. I'm wondering. Just saying, I'm not a sweat by any means. I'd have to look. Perhaps it was my choice of what weapon I chose to level up. So look, man, all of what you said, I accept. Right. My whole point was you yourself are saying, perhaps, which means you're not absolutely certain. I'm not up here saying, shut up and stop talking about it unless you're 100% certain. I understand you need to go look it up. That's great. Just maybe give everybody else that latitude too, instead of coming off the way you did the first time around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was a better response. But yeah, no, so Slomo, we were playing, Slomo had the game crash on him a couple times. Like it was literally like back to back to back. Like, we weren't sure what was happening. Like we were literally in game. And the other thing that I experienced, the Slomo experience too, was screen flickering. Noticed that a couple times while I was playing. Also noticed the screen going black on me a couple times while I was playing.
Well, hold on. You guys are on You guys were both on PC, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So those, I think they were the 547 drivers. I think was the sequence number. So the ones that came out on October 27th. There are known issues with those NVIDIA drivers for RTX cards.
Yes.
NVIDIA admitted. Yeah, NVIDIA admitted that they did need to go back and work on them, and they are doing so. So I would expect maybe that like in a week's time we would get, if not a full-blown packaged driver update, at least a hot fix for you guys for those issues.
Yeah.
On PC I encountered at least one lockup, and then it's hard to explain the phenomena. It was a weird kind of screen flicker where it wasn't the thing you said where it sounded like you suggested like the wireframes were still there. But I did feel, maybe that is what I saw. I did feel like there were points where like some of the texture maps like just blinked away for like a split second. And then, like I said, I did have one lockup. On PlayStation 5, I've had one lockup, like a hard lockup. Like I just couldn't do anything with the game until I hit the media crossbar and brought up the lower tile menu and closed the app and then went back in. But I've had multiple instances of just a complete loss of connectivity to the data center servers with error messages indicating that when I had no other problems with connectivity anywhere in the house. And to the extent that I reinstalled Black Ops Cold War, just so, if that happened again and I kept trying to get into the game several times, like I did the night it happened. Actually, the night it happened and the following morning, that I would just go over and play Black Ops Cold War.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's, I see Nick saying this is normal for games that release nowadays. I think he's talking to, discussing the issues that games have with when they're released being buggy or having these issues. So But yeah, I mean, like, again, I mean, my situation with the screen going black, I think it happened like 3 times in game, by the way. Worst possible time to have this happen. And then that screen flickering, but that was it. I mean, outside of that, no other issues. Slow-mo again having the issues where he was literally dropped from the game a couple times. I think he reinstalled his texture packs. He did something that seemed to work.
The shaders.
The shaders, thank you, the shaders, yeah. So he did that, and that seemed to work where he wasn't getting dropped anymore, but it was frustrating. But yeah, some of the maps, not a fan of. There isn't anything, like you say, really close quarters. Like you mentioned, Nuketown. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it feels more COD to me, as I said earlier.
Yeah, and Nick, to address your comment, to a certain extent, yes. I think the difference in this dynamic is, and first of all, I think, BRAP, unless you're meaning some other intention, we're just talking through the bugs and things that we've come across to share the information out.
Exactly.
At no point have I said, don't go buy this game. It's complete garbage. Infinity Ward, launched it, half baked. My comments have been about missing features and why Infinity Ward thought that was okay and why people are okay with it. I don't really care. I bought the game. I've bought it on 2 platforms, so it's not a concern or problem for me, other than from a quality of life perspective, I'm a little disappointed. When you talk about this is normal for games that release nowadays, I think that is the acceptable norm for games that are launching multiplayer online in a completely different way, like when Rockstar released its version of GTA Online the first time out of the gate. I think that's expected when it's a new game and new IP. But Call of Duty has been around for a very, very, very long time on the same engine and the same code base. There's still code from Quake in Call of Duty. These things were not there when I played Black Ops Cold War. And so one of the reasons I'm bringing them up is because they are different, right, than my past experiences onboarding into Call of Duty. So they haven't been the norm for that game, in my opinion and in my experience. So.
Yeah. No. Oh, hold on, man. The dating sites are out tonight.
Yeah, but like there are some neat new gets in there. I'm not. I tried out the 3rd-person mode in during the beta. It was neat. I'm interested to kind of see how that works for them in terms of sales numbers, right? That there are people in 2 different camps, right? Sometimes there are people who only like the first-person shooter view, and then there are people who who do appreciate the 3rd person. It may bring over maybe people who have gotten affinity for Fortnite. I'm not sure. It'll just be interesting to see how it goes. I haven't personally been interested in that and haven't gone back into it. One of the things I was curious about during the beta is how will they treat your stats? Because I don't know. It feels like there's a conversation to be had about whether or not it's fair for KD and ED to be aggregated across 3rd-person and 1st-person view. I don't know. About things like this, I tend to not have like any religious zealotry about one way is absolutely right, one way is absolutely wrong. But it just seems like that is a curious nit that needs to be discussed. BRAP, you still there? BRAP may have something else going on. But
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to. I'm back. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got B Money in the house. What's up, B?
What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Just talking some COD, man. Did you get a chance to play? I know you mentioned last night, B. You were going to try to join us for some multiplayer. I don't know if you got the chance to hop on, but did you get to run any multiplayer games last night?
No, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. Um, no,
Have
I
you?
don't normally. I don't normally buy COD, but it's Modern Warfare. So I figured I should at least give it a chance. And but I haven't had a chance to play it yet. My sons have played it for the last couple of days, and they seem to be really enjoying it. So hopefully I'll get a chance to play it tonight or tomorrow, something like that, and see what it's all about.
Yeah, depending on what time the show wraps up, and we may wrap up earlier than usual. I may hop on, man. I'll let you know if I hop on, man. Maybe we can run some matches, but
Yeah, I should have mentioned at the opening of the show. That is the other reason why I'm disappointed, is because I had planned on getting on Modern Warfare today, and like every time I was about to get on, like something happened and I didn't. So I got I squeezed in like one match right before the podcast.
oh my goodness, that's too funny. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I was gonna try to hop on today too. I couldn't. Had to, B. I don't know if I told you, man. I'm coaching basketball again this year. I think I told you last year my son was playing, right?
Yeah.
So he's look, he's third grade. So they had the it wasn't a tryouts. It was actually a an evaluation. So they can kind of like the team that I'm coaching right now is by the way, man, those Giannis that I got him, those Nikes. Did you see the picture that I sent you?
Yeah.
Oh man, those are nice shoes, man. They're nice.
Yeah.
I don't like the color as much. Like I wouldn't pick that. He picked it. But the shoe themselves, like the design and how light they are, they're nice shoes, man.
Yeah, they got good traction too.
Yeah. I mean, again, not the color I would pick. He picked them out. Like, hey, you know what? You pick out your shoe. That's cool. Of course, you know how to buy LeBrons, and he picked out a pair for me. So,
There you go.
yeah. Oh, I'm getting this itch to buy shoes, man. It's not good. It's not good at all, man. I don't know what. Like I'm not. That's just
side, man.
That's not me, B, by any stretch of the imagination. Like I'm not somebody that's gonna I'm not a sneakerhead. That's not. But ever since I got the Jordans, the retro Jordans, I think I showed you a picture of those.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I haven't worn those yet. They're still in the box. And those, oh man, those what is it? The New Balance 327s? Is that?
Yeah, man.
Oh, B, I love those shoes, man. The most comfortable pair of shoes I've owned in a long time. Those shoes are. But I'm telling you, man, like I cannot go to Dick's or any other shoe store because we went there to go buy my son a pair of basketball shoes, and I was like looking around and I saw LeBrons or he picked out these LeBrons and I looked at them, and they were like $100, I don't know, like $105 or something. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And those are really comfortable too. I'm like, oh man, like I haven't owned a shoe with air bubbles in quite some time. So like I grew up like I had like the Air Maxes, the Bo Jacksons,
yeah, classics, man.
Yeah, the newer Jordans, not the Jordan 3s, but like the 5s or 6s or whatever they were. But yeah, man, like and then I'm seeing. Now I'm starting to look. I want those the Jordan 3s now. I can't find them anywhere. I think Nike.
Red?
Yeah, the Fire. I think Nike just released them again recently.
Yeah, they did like 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, they were like on their website sold out. Like on this of like my size, yeah. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like I'm like, what, dude? I'm telling you, man. Like I saw some Nike Air Max for like $220 something, and I was like, it's funny. We talk about this is gonna be a segue into PlayStation VR2, but we talk about like people seeing value differently. Like I don't mind dropping $100, $150 on shoes, but when it crosses that $200 threshold, I see that $199. I'm like, my T-Rex arms comes out. It's like I'm not trying to reach in my wallet, my pocket. It's like right. That's my threshold. I'm like, I start thinking about like that's approaching my consoles, like. But I'm telling you, B, I can understand the why people buy these shoes or collect these shoes. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's just I don't know what it is, man. It's like it's really weird, man. I've never been into shoes, but all of a sudden, man, like I think it's my kids too. Because my 13-year-old is buying retro Jordans now, and all his friends have like the shoes that I grew up wearing, and I'm like, what? What do you know about Air Max 90s? Like, you got like that? Those are called the Bo Jacksons. They're called something else now.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like,
SC Trainer 2s.
yeah, and they don't have the Velcro on the front the way the Bo Jacksons did. You remember how the Bo Jacksons had the Velcro?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like it's just I just I see the Air Force Ones and I'm just like, wow, like you guys, so it's probably some of it's nostalgia. The other thing too is like I can go in if I want to buy now, I can buy it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing for me to drop $120, $150 on a pair of shoes now.
Yep.
Like I don't have to ask my mom and dad anymore or wait for Christmas, So I think that's the other thing too. So, but no, we had back to the basketball thing. We had basketball, and so, I also had to get him. Had he not picked out those shoes, I probably would have picked out a pair because I was like, look, man, you gotta have some good shoes when you're out there playing, man. So, but nah, man. But I forgot where I was going with this conversation. But anyhow, I was doing basketball. I'm doing that again. So excited about that, B. And I'm trying to get him because I think last year you said he needs to bounce not a basketball, but a tennis ball. So I'm going to try to get him to do that again this year to see if he will. True Seer says, "Oh, so shoes are doing remasters as well, but Sony bad." There you go. That's the conversation about value. That's. We've talked about this. We're going to segue to PlayStation VR2. But yeah, I'm going to try and do the tennis ball thing this year because he's like, oh, I can dribble. Now you got to practice, man. But he's in third grade. They measure the kids. They measured him at 4'8", man.
Oh man, he's big.
Yeah, he's tall, man. He's 95 percentile height. I don't know where he gets it from. Man. I'm only 5'9".
Yeah.
Like I'm only 5'9". Like I'm the smallest person on this podcast. Eric was like 6'8" or something, right?
Yeah.
And I think Slum was like 6'2", 6'3". You might be 6'4". I think B, aren't you like 6 feet?
Yeah, I'm 6 feet, man.
Yeah, and I think Forte's up there too. So yeah, I'm the smallest person here. I don't know, Hamp. I don't know how tall you are, but he's 4'8". So we'll see if he grows. Got my fingers crossed. Hopefully he doesn't hit a block where he just stops growing. But he's pretty tall. He's not bad. He's not bad at basketball. I'll give him that. So, but anyhow, I'm looking forward to coaching this year. So, but so we're talking about. Sorry, B. I know it's kind of ranted on there, but we talk about like the shoes and what Truce here said. So we got the price, the announcement of the PlayStation VR2 headset. Which is coming hot to retail stores in February at $550. And so, look, my quick thoughts on this, and then I'll open it up to you, B, and Hamp. Look, I have an Oculus Quest 2. I don't use VR a lot, so I'm probably. I know you guys were making fun of me in the BRAP chat. Like I think E was like, "Oh, where's FOMO?" And I said it's probably be day one, but just if I'm thinking about the 550 price point, and what I have right now and my usage of VR, for me, considering the investment I just made on a new PC, if I'm getting close to that $600 price range, if I'm gonna do VR, probably looking at maybe going up to something a little bit higher, in terms of a VR headset to complement my PC or for my PC to complement to complement my PC. But I also don't think that this is out of bounds from what Sony's kind of, at least what they did with the PlayStation VR headset when that released. And I think when you look at like having to buy the peripherals and then the headset, it was roughly about the same in price as the PSVR2. And there's clearly an upgrade here in technology with the PSVR2. But that being said, I did see people out here saying that this thing was dead on arrival, that it was priced to fail. Who's going to buy this? And then some of the things that
people with money.
Well, I was going to say that. Go ahead, man.
People with money, the people who are interested are the ones that are going to buy it. We were just talking about sneakers, just a few moments ago, and it's like not everyone is into sneakers. Not everybody's going to drop $200 on sneakers. Not everybody cares about sneakers like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's weird to me when I see like a lot of people just coming out and just speaking on stuff that they're not going to buy or they're not interested in, or they're saying like, well, who is this for? Obviously, it's not for you. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you're a consumer. You have a choice to make, and if it's not for you, that's fine. But like to try to come out and try to shit on people who are interested in a particular product, it's just goofy behavior in my opinion. So if it's not for you, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like say that, move on. But like the continued just badgering of people who are interested in it, or trying to clown people, saying that they're wasting their money and all this other nonsense. Like I don't get it, man. Those are people I ignore. It's goofy behavior. What I mean? I can't stand that type of behavior. You know what I mean? If it's not for you, it's not for you. You know what I mean? Like I spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on sneakers all the time.
Wait, did you say
You know what I mean?
thousands?
Yeah, all the time.
Like in a year?
In a year, yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Most of my sneakers are 200 plus. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
I just
yeah.
got the New Balance 90 V6s are coming out this Friday actually. They'll be $200. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing to me to spend money on sneakers like that. You know what I mean? I just bought 3 pair of the New Balance 2002R protection packs. Those are like 170 each. So I got all 3 colors. I bought 2 pair of the 9060s. Those are 150. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I do. You know what I mean? The stuff that I'm interested in, I'm gonna spend money on. You know what I mean? So it's like when I see people speak on like other people's spending habits, or you know what I mean, just stuff that they're interested in that they want to buy. Like if you're not interested, like such a goofy ass up and like just move on. You know what I mean? Like obviously it's not for you, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like everything is not made for you. Everybody's not driving a Ferrari. Everybody's not driving
Thank
a
you,
Benz.
B.
Everybody's not driving a Maybach. You know what I mean? Like some people got Honda budgets, and that's okay.
B.
Some people got Kia budgets,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
go ahead
No.
and purchase the thing that you're interested in, and let that be that. Let that be that.
Yeah. No, B. That is the truth. I mean, and that's the part that like where I scratch my head, where people do these mental gymnastics about, well, it's this price and they don't have any games and blah 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 and this and that, and I'm like, well, you don't sound like you're interested. And then they apply that to the general market, and they think that
Right.
that's how the market's going to react. But for the reasons you mentioned, B, like there's people that, and the other thing too, that one of the more interesting comments that I saw today was, and I don't know if you saw this, B, and I did see commentary from someone who said, wow, this is an interesting price to release, to announce in the midst of, family households tightening their budgets and a looming recession. And I'm like, well, okay, well, even then, I don't know about you, B, but I've been through a couple of recessions, and companies still release new products during these recessions, and people.
The world doesn't stop just because we're having a recession.
Exactly, and people will still
You know what I
buy
mean?
these products in the midst of a recession.
Businesses still have to make money even during a recession. They're never going to take some losses. They're not going to make as much money. But at the end of the day, the goal is still to make money. So you know what I mean? It's goofy behavior. You know what I mean? It's people they're not reading the room. They're not understanding what's going on. Chevy isn't stopping releasing the Corvette just because it's a recession. Like there's some people out there with money who don't give a fuck about what's going on, and that will continue to spend their money, and that's just plain and simple.
I mean, B, I would imagine recession hits, you'll probably still be buying shoes.
Sure, it's actually the best time to buy shoes, because similar to how it was during the pandemic. I mean, people weren't able to go to stores. People weren't out in malls and things like that. So online shopping for sneakers was booming. Like I copped so many pairs during the pandemic, it's not even funny. Like my wife was like, "Yo, stop buying sneakers."
She was like,
It's
B,
like
we got to have a talk.
Yeah, like every other day, there's like somebody ringing a bell, like there's a package here. You know what I mean? So that was like the perfect time. So actually during recession, like I can't wait, because that's gonna be like the perfect time to like stack up all the stuff that I want that I haven't copied yet.
Because you're saying, but basically what's going to happen is there's going to be less competition in the market for those sneakers.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's
I hear you.
exactly.
We've talked, Hamp and I've talked about that. We talked about that when Sony announced the price increase of the PlayStation 5 overseas markets, how that would allow them to actually get more inventory in the hands of people who can afford it, even with the price increase, because the demand's there. So, Yeah, no, that's a great point, B. That's kind of like what what we've talked a lot about. Ham Solo even said this man is spitting. That's what he said in regards to your commentary, B. But big shout out to Ham Solo, by the way, live chat. But yeah, Hamp, what do you think here, man? What are your thoughts?
Hey, can I before I answer that, can I swing back and cover one thing really quick on Call of Duty?
Yes, go ahead.
So Boba Fett, before I ask you this question, now let's understand you and I are cool now, right? We had a little wrinkle that's been smoothed. I'm asking this question because I want to know, right? And I want the knowledge for myself, and I figure, it's good if other people hear it. So as far as I can tell, the quickest way to unlock a thermal is to get the RPK, right, of the light machine gun to level 7. The only way to get the RPK to level 7 is to unlock it by unlocking the Cast-Off 762, which you could only unlock by getting yourself to level 23. So I don't understand how if there's a faster way to get it. Right, I'm level 21 now. Right, I got 2 more levels to go before I even unlock this weapon, and in order to unlock the RPK, to unlock the thermal scope, right, I've got to level the weapon. So, anyway, so my feeling on PSVR 2 is, and the comments that we made about the recession, yeah, dead on agree with you guys. I think the stat I pulled up today was during the last major recession in, I want to say it was like December 2007 to like June of 2009. And I'm not talking about the COVID recession that lasted 2 months. There are different thumb rules on what constitutes a recession. The labeling of the COVID time period from, I think, March to April of 2020 as a recession is the least constraining thumb rule that by which we adjudicate, whether or not a thing's a recession or not. So I'm bypassing that, talking about the recession of 2007, 2009, right? So a year into that recession in 2008, video game spending increased from 18 billion in 2007 to 21.33 billion in 2008. So an increase of 3.3 billion in the middle of a recession. Entertainment
the Great Recession,
spending,
by the way.
Yes, the Great Recession. Entertainment spending during a recession, there are lots of philosophical and academic arguments about whether or not entertainment spending is recession-proof. I wouldn't go that far, but it is definitely more resilient to other forms of spending that are impacted. I won't go into some sales. Of the right. There are certain types of spending. The biggest type of spending that's impacted during a recession is this type of spending that requires you to go borrow money, right? Consumer spending tends to be less impacted, but especially entertainment spending is less impacted. And even when it is impacted, people then will figure out ways to squirrel around and still spend money on retail things that are important to them. A big thing that came out during this time period was the notion of the thing called the staycation, right? Which, when the bottom fell out of the housing market, lots of people took what they called staycations, and they didn't go on their big annual summer vacation, and they stayed at home. But they also sometimes spent that money and spent it on retail purchases that they could utilize at home, such as video game consoles and video games. So, the question on PSVR 2 to me is, and BRAP and I talked about this a little bit today, is the thing that's curious and speculated about is what is Sony's strategy with it, right? Why set it at 550? First of all, 550, if you're looking at somebody who's interested in VR, is still kind of a steal, right? It's still kind of a good deal in comparison to buying and you talk about I'm talking about high fidelity VR gaming, and by that I'm separating out the Meta Quest 2, because without a PC and without it operating in tethered mode, I don't consider that high fidelity VR. And so your cost of entry into that capability on the PC side is still a reasonably capable PC capable of pushing VR in a high fidelity solution, which is you're probably talking $1,300 to $1,500 plus the cost of the VR headset or VR kit, right? Versus $500 for a PlayStation 5 if you can get your hands on one still, and $550 for the PlayStation 2, right? You're still coming out at a pretty decent cost advantage and value and budget, comparatively speaking, in comparison to plunking down for a PC. So for Sony, you still have a lot of wiggle room, right, on where you want to price the PSVR 2 at. At the time the PlayStation 5 launched, I believe they had sold about 5 million PSVR headsets. And so they're launching it in the life cycle of this console a year sooner than they did when they launched the PSVR on the PlayStation 4. And so the question is how many units of the PSVR 2 do they really intend to sell? And one of the other things is this a volume play or is this a margin play? It looks to me like it's a profit margin play. And what they want is they want every unit of the PSVR 2 that they sell to be as profitable as it could possibly be. And I don't know that they were that wrapped around the axle about selling it at high volume. Somebody made the comment before, it was a little caustic. It's not about failing. It's about, can you get enough volume out there that devs invest time into making a VR game and not get 100,000 unit sales? Again, I don't know that that's the play. That's a hypothesis. I won't totally dismiss it or discount it. But this is a first party, if you will, play, right? This is a headset inside a walled garden ecosystem. It obviously isn't going to do the same volume as you do if you put a title out on PC for a third party publisher. I believe that Sony is going to incentivize people to make high quality games. And I don't believe Sony, that's the other thing. I don't believe Sony wants, look, there's a ton of games out there for PC VR. Not every one of them is a great game, right? There's a lot of curation you need to do to find, right, the real gems amongst all the VR games out there. I don't think that Sony wants that problem. So I think most of what you will see on PSVR 2 are SIE games, or, I mean, every game that comes to that platform is essentially an exclusive, right? So either you're going to get devs who are going to put it on the PlayStation platform because they're already making it for PC and they're interested in selling their game in as many places as they can, so they don't necessarily need to be incentivized to put it on PSVR 2, or it's somebody who's going to make something exclusive for PSVR 2, in which case, they're probably going to have a deal with Sony to incentivize them to do so.
Yeah, let me grab the super chat real quick, Camp, from Eagles fan. I think you just read his commentary from earlier. But Eagles fan 76 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Eagles fan says, "You guys have it wrong. It's about support. If you buy, will it collect dust? You can't get 100K sales for a IP. Devs won't invest in those numbers."
Hey, Eagle fan, I'm going to disagree with you because the thing's going to collect dust anyway, right? VR is not out there running around in the wild at volumes of number with tons of devs supporting it, with tons of people putting in the number of hours playing it to make it the prevalent value prop that a lot of the media would have you believe. Otherwise, we would have seen a significant shift in the way people spend money in gaming, and we would have seen VR on a meteoric rise instead of the very small incremental rise that it's been. We also wouldn't have seen the shift that we've seen in the PC VR market, where there have been a lot of low-cost entry points that were offered for VR, and we saw that those things did not get a lot of uptake in the PC VR market, which is why everyone has moved upscale, because the companies are thinking that the people who are going after VR don't want low cost of entry solutions, right? There are tons of Windows mixed reality headsets that came out at incredibly affordable prices. Those did not sell that well. The Rift S was moved out of the product lineup for Meta, right? But they saw fit to release the new headset, right? That's what is it, over like $1,600 or over $1,000? I can't remember what the price on it is.
I think it's $1,400.
Yeah. So if you notice, you can look at all of the big headsets that are out on the PC VR market now, right? The new Meta headset, the Valve Index, weird SKUs of the Vive now that are still going on. Everybody has moved upscale. So I don't know that I agree with you that it's about, because there aren't hundreds of thousands of people running out there buying $1,400 headsets. I think there's some. Trying to think of a polite way to say it. I think there are some over projections on VR numbers and what you need to do to move the needle, but I don't think it's realistic for them to be moved in high volume. And I think the PC VR market understands that, which is why everyone's moved upscale.
Yeah, no, it's an enthusiast. I can't even talk today. It's an enthusiast device. I mean, it just, it's interesting. One of the conversations that people were asking was, where does this device sit? And I was in a Spaces today. And I said, it probably sits somewhere in that. And I think we may have talked about this too, Hamp. Where it's like, if you don't want to buy a PC, a capable PC required to run, one of the more higher end VR headsets, this is probably another option, or an option for that person who doesn't want to go that route, and wants maybe a little more sophisticated experience in the Oculus Quest 2, which is what I have. And I can tell you that while the experiences have been entertaining, visually speaking, those games kind of look like 360 games for the most part when I played. This is going to be something I think is going to be a little more I guess visually speaking, probably a better visual experience than what I could find on Oculus Quest 2. And even some of those games that they've announced on Oculus Quest 2, like there's that tabletop Dungeons and Dragons game, which is fun, but again, visually speaking, it's not anything that's it's going to wow you. And I've always thought VR. I've always described VR games as experiences because I feel like they're just experiences. Vader Immortal, one of my favorite VR games, was an experience. I felt like it was more of an experience than an actual game. So, so what do you guys think? I mean, B, where do you see this thing kind of slotting in with other VR devices? Do you think it's kind of for that middle of the road consumer who maybe doesn't want to buy a PC and a high end VR headset, but also wants something that's a little bit better than what Oculus is offering with the Quest 2?
Yeah, I think it kind of falls in line with that. I think as good as the Quest 2 is, it still has its limitations. And this is kind of like, the next step up as far as power is concerned and the type of experiences that you'll have on, with the actual device. And then, if you're not really into PC gaming, this is the only solution that you kind of have to kind of get that next level of experience. So, it kind of slots in, right there. As far as the adoption, of course, it's going to be slow. The adoption of the first PSVR was very slow. I think they were the most popular, headset unit before the Quest 2 came out, at the lower price point. So, I would assume that it's going to sell slow, and as more content comes out over time, and developers have more time with it, and we get more sophisticated experiences, and it'll start to pick up. But it's not going to be a world beater. It's not going to be something that you see sell 10, 15 million units. It might flatten out at right around 5 or 8 million, something like that. But at the end of the day, it depends on what the content is. If we can get some high level content, similar to what we see with the Horizon game, if we get more experiences like Half-Life Alyx, things like that, where they feel more like a game and not just something you play for 10, 15 minutes, then I think it has potential to grow. But if we don't really get beyond that, then it's kind of just going to be one of those things you have in the corner. You bring it out when friends come over, if you just looking for a different experience, which is cool too. It's at the end of the day, we're all looking for the best experience possible. So you kind of venture out if your pockets allow, and you're able to try different things. So there's be one of those things that we try, and just like all the other accessories that we have, one day it'll end up in the closet and get traded in eventually.
Yeah, no, I hear you, B. I mean, like I said, my Oculus kind of comes out when the friends come over. It's unless there's something I really want to play, but yeah, I don't use it as much, and I don't know, man. I got it because I thought it was a good price at the time and wanted to try VR, and played it for a little bit for about a month or so, and just went back to gaming. So that's my experience, though. Hamp, any other thoughts on PlayStation VR2, man? Before we move on to one more topic.
Oh yeah, I got a few. I'm gonna try and go rapid fire if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I hear the disappointment in your voice. I'm sorry. Captain Ply mentioned, to be fair, some of those headsets were junk. Yeah. So we talk about the Windows Media, Windows Mixed Reality headsets. I don't disagree with you, Captain Ply, but some of them were really good. Like somebody mentioned the HP Reverb in the chat, and also the Samsung Odyssey headset. But the point was, is though those headsets were lower cost, and so this notion where people have commented on the VR strategy that people will buy things when they're inexpensive didn't pan out, right? Microsoft tried to push the price down for the entry point into VR to get those headsets out to more people, but people didn't bite. So again, people are going upscale. There was one other one here. Eagles fan was saying, may have missed this comment. I think Eagles fans, you made a comment about VR moving mainstream and Sony would fail because of the high price. Again, I'm just going to disagree with you, right? I don't, because there are issues with VR adoption that don't have anything to do with price, right? They have to do with the fact that there's tons of people who can't use VR, right? There are sensory issues with people using VR. There are people who, without a VR headset on, don't understand relative motion, right? Like couldn't track down a thrown football or a baseball and intercept it at a closest point of approach to save their lives, right? There are lots of people there are problems that people have in onboarding with VR. Not even talk about the sensory, but just that don't like to be in basically a bathysphere, right? With a headset on and headphones on and closed away from the world. There are lots of problems with VR adoption. I think that people don't recognize and don't want to admit. I also think that, what B Money said is very poignant, which is that even if this thing only matches the PSVR numbers, that still makes it the best-selling single VR solution right out there. And so, I don't know that Sony has to do anything to try and take over the world of VR. I don't think that's their point. One of the questions we asked is the point to have the PSVR 2 help sell PlayStation 5s, or is the point to have PlayStation 5s sell PSVR 2s? You can kind of, theorize on that. But at the end of the day, my personal belief is that the PSVR 2 play is a way primarily to extend the PlayStation 5 experience, to keep people in the ecosystem, long term, to get them to make an investment that they will carry with them to the PlayStation 6, thereby immediately turning them into a return customer. I don't necessarily think it's to go head to head with PC VR, because I think that's an entirely different market subsegment, which is why I think we're seeing the pricing here. Obviously, clearly, the pricing is not meant to be mass market, right? The pricing is meant to be profitable and to keep people who want that, what is arguably kind of the upper premium tier of the PlayStation 5 experience, right? In the house. Again, kind of making it like an Apple-esque kind of play.
Let me ask you gentlemen something real quick, because this is something that I was in a Spaces conversation. This came up today. At some point, do we think that PlayStation will have some kind of compatibility with PC, the PSVR 2?
Arguably, there's not a ton of reason why not. I will definitely say I don't think it's a priority of theirs. I've seen a lot of people in chat and people on this show, and other people have commented out on Twitter that it's a fail for not being PC compatible, yada yada yada. Again, I just don't think that feature and that capability was a priority of theirs, and I don't know that it does a ton for them. Like we're just hitting the point where they've nailed down what their PC port strategy is going to be for their first party titles. If we get the VR stuff, great, but I don't know that it's their priority.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Is like it'd be different if they were kind of established on PC already. And, they kind of had a PC storefront and they could release the games, their VR titles, and, in their PC storefront, and everything was kind of, just one big happy family. Everything was kind of seamless. Then, I could see that happening, but right now I don't see that as a priority for them. Maybe a year down the line or something like that, as they kind of establish themselves a little further on PC. Maybe we can see that happen, but I don't see that right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, like I think I do agree with both of you. Like if their PC strategy was a little more maybe more mature, things like you mentioned, they had a PC storefront where you could buy content. Maybe that's a play for them, or if they had that, maybe that's something that they probably look into. But it is something that I think, like Ham said, it's been kind of a conversation piece that's been going around, at least on the Twitters, from what I've seen quite a bit, where people feel like, oh, maybe this was a big miss for PlayStation. But we'll see. Yeah, go
and on top of that, Brad, Can't Apply, you made one comment, I play racing games in VR. Like, Can't Apply, I love using VR for that too, right? Playing racing games, playing flight sims. I did a ton of that stuff. My personal problem, and I think, it's a lot of extra stuff to go through to play the same games that I can play without having to go through that extra stuff. But more importantly, your comment, yes, 100% add one driver and plug it in. I don't believe that it's that simple. Making the headset compatible, yes, but bringing the games to PC requires then those VR games, right, which are already, let's just say it's probably a level of effort that is a skosh above making a traditional game, right, on the PlayStation platform. Then there's that much additional effort for the port, right? Because again, the PlayStation abstraction layer and some of its core technology is not exactly the same as Windows games on PC, right? So again, it's a matter of, does Sony want to make that investment, right, for, and put all that squeeze into something that may not offer that much juice.
Yeah, that question's come up quite a bit. Well, actually, it came up when they announced that the games weren't going to be backwards compatible. If I'm not mistaken, though, I thought that maybe some I'd have to go back and look. Maybe some developers that I talked to that had mentioned that it had something to do with the newer technology or something. I forget, but anyhow, So real quick, gentlemen, before we wrap up the show, God of War comes out next week. I can't believe that's coming out. Like, that's now, this wasn't a topic, but because it's God of War, and Hamp, you and I were talking about this, and B, I don't know if this is something you've thought about, but let me ask you something, B, because you've talked about there being a like still some kind of PlayStation event. But do you think that, like, I kind of feel like they did have that big, like they had that commercial with Ben Stiller and LeBron James and John Travolta. Did you guys see that? With God of War. That was actually pretty funny. I thought I actually laughed. I thought it was pretty funny with Ben Stiller dressed up as Kratos. Like this is a big release for them, and I kind of think that they've been, at least in my opinion, I think they've been a little bit quiet compared to the last God of War. In terms of marketing, no state of play for God of War. They've been like, even with the announcements of
I think,
go ahead, man.
I think the reason why they are slightly more quiet on this game is because when they first shown it, they got hit with all that negative energy about it, like, oh, this is just DLC. Oh, this is the same game. Oh, this isn't a sequel. This is, this is just another God. This is God of War 2018 2.0. Da, da, da. And it's like, yeah, basically, it's a sequel to a game that came out years ago. Was going to come out a year ago, but it got delayed. So, like, now it's like, okay, yeah, we give you, a few trailers here and there. No dedicated state of play because, they showed off a bit of the gameplay at one of the state of plays or whatever the event was. They showed it off for like 10 minutes or whatever. And then it's coming out at a different time of year too. So it's around like a bunch of other stuff that's just released, Call of Duty, You know what I mean? You have, the Gotham Knights. There's other games releasing around it. Whereas when it came out before, it's getting ready to release, in the early part of the year. It's right around NBA Finals. They can promote it a lot differently. You know what I mean? So, um, just I think it's just a different strategy. Just because they kind of they were hit with that negative energy when they first showed it, and to continue showing it, and people see more of the game and say like, oh, this isn't as big of a jump as we thought it was going to be, and we kind of saw that even more once they started sending out the review copies and people were previewing it, and you have journalists coming out saying, oh, this isn't a next generation game, this isn't what people expect, da da da. So I think they kind of pulled back a little bit on it, just to kind of quiet the noise around it, and just let people get it in their hands, and kind of experience it for themselves, and kind of form their own opinion. So
yeah, no, I hear you. I was, and I'm gonna try to do a BRAP. I want to do a separate video about this, or show about this, because I kind of have a theory out there, B Money, that maybe Sony's been a little bit quieter because of the eyes of the CMA and that the ABK deal, and perhaps not giving any.
You do remember?
Yeah.
After they what if they did something,
Mm-hmm.
and what was it? Some little short showcase or something like that, or a
Mm-hmm.
state of play. It was a state of play, and everybody was wondering like, oh, where's the big showcase? So then I get on. I was actually on a show here, and I said that there's a showcase that is planned for the second or third week of October.
Yes, I remember that.
Uh, it was definitely planned there. Multiple confirmed that with me, and then literally like a week before that happened, there's another insider that came out and said they pulled back on a showcase because of the continued arguments with the CMA about the whole Activision thing.
Yeah, there was
So
that.
then-
Yep.
Yeah. So then we did a little talking behind the scenes, and we kind of corroborated stories, or I talked to her about people I knew, and she talked to me about things that she knew, and you know what I mean. So I kind of believe, what she's saying as far as them kind of pulling back because of what's going on with that. Because, like I said, it was confirmed to me that there was supposed to be a show the second or third week of October.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be announced in the second week of October. The show would have been taking place. The showcase would have taken place third week of October. So,
Man, B Money been lying to us.
Yeah, what's up,
Come on
Forte?
now.
What's up? I am alive. I am
What's
well.
going on, man?
I am well. I am alive.
Forte only showed up because you're here, B Bunny.
What? Why you say that?
Because Forte, you only show up when B Money's here, man.
Oh, really?
I'm joking, man. I'm
B-
joking, Forte.
B Money is my favorite BRAP member on the show. So.
All right. Well, Forte, you actually join us at the perfect time because we're talking about review scores real quick. But no, B, that's interesting, man. And I want to probably do a BRAP rant about that because I was talking to Hamp about this and have some theories about why they've been a little more quiet than usual. But that's a great point.
And then,
yeah, go ahead. Man.
When that week actually hit, I was like, yo, look at all this weird shit that's going on. That would have been at the showcase.
Uh-huh.
Like PlayStation has like a dedicated Resident Evil showcase. For what? Like it wasn't. They don't own Capcom.
Nope.
They signed a deal to promote that game, yes, but they don't own Capcom. So why they have a Resident Evil Village showcase? That same week, we get the announcement that Silent Hill is being developed, PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And not announced by Sony, by the way.
Right. But Konami announces it. Come on now.
Oh yeah, they trying to.
We know better.
They hiding the ball.
Yeah.
They hiding the ball.
Right. So are you saying
They hiding the ball.
like within that same week, PlayStation London comes out and says that they're working on a new game, and they show a new image from the game.
Mm-hmm. Hiding the ball. We don't want y'all to know. We don't want nobody to know what we out here doing.
Yeah, and then within that same week, there's another announcement. I forget what game it was that was announced that was a PlayStation 5 exclusive for next year. So it's like they have stuff cooking. There's stuff, like I said, that should have been at that showcase.
Mm-hmm.
Within that same week, that showcase should have took place. All these other announcements are being made on PlayStation's behalf, but Sony's nowhere to be found.
You know what the funny thing is? Call of Duty just released, and normally, and they never really do like you say, they don't do a thing for Call of Duty because Activision does that for Call of Duty, but you always get some type of build up to what PlayStation is doing around Call of Duty.
Yes, or they have what they have in
and if you realize this year, people didn't even know what was going on with Call of Duty outside of the beta information stuff that was out earlier. No one really knew what PlayStation had for Call of Duty until Call of Duty launched this year. And then that's when people started talking like, these blueprints and stuff. Oh, this is a PlayStation exclusive. If you pick the gun up, you can only get it if somebody drops it as a PlayStation gamer, or all of these different other things like PlayStation has this exclusive for Call of Duty and stuff like that. Normally, you'll see all types of little sizzle reels and stuff of them talking about what you get for being a PlayStation gamer. You didn't see none of that before the launch. All you saw was what happened after the game already launched. It is really indicative to, and nobody's going, and I don't think anybody up here is going to say that Sony is trying to be deceitful or anything about it. I just think that they're doing just like Microsoft is doing, like how Microsoft comes out and says, "Oh, we're number 3 in gaming when it comes to consoles, and number 7 and what's the name when it comes, like, our games suck and stuff like that." We're not as great as these other publishers. They're all playing a little game, a shell game with each other, and Sony is sitting there like, "Listen, we heard earlier last year, or even at the beginning of this year, that people are going to be shocked at some of the stuff that Sony has acquired or got exclusive rights to for this generation." And we heard that, B Money talked about that on the show last year. You're going to be shocked to see what PlayStation has in store for you for PlayStation 5. Why haven't we seen any of that stuff? Well, you're starting to see some of it get announced, by third party, like, the Silent Hill stuff, Resident Evil having this VR mode and everything when it comes to Resident Evil Gold Edition and everything like that. You're starting to see that stuff get announced by these companies secondhand, but there's even more out there that Sony hasn't even talked about yet. And we won't truly get a grasp of what's going on with them, I believe, until probably February or March of next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is all tied up into what's going on. Like once the veil drops on Activision, then you'll see Sony truly show exactly what they got going on. But it's interesting because the Call of Duty thing kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, dang, why did we know any of this? That's because Sony wasn't talking about it.
That was weird, Forte. That's and I do want to do a BRAP rant about this because Hamp and I were talking about that. So it's kind of weird that we got the announcement from Activision about what the benefits were to PlayStation. Usually that's the other way around, and it happens in some kind of event. But real quick, I want to get the super chat from Bulwark Country. $5 super chat says, "Remember FromSoft bias and reviews? Demon's Souls 5 with PS3 graphics and frame rate, but they gave it a 9.6. I expect God of War to criticize. No jump bot." Thank you for that super chat, Bulwark Country. So, all right, I want to ask the panel here. God of War reviews come out tomorrow. Game drops next week. What are your review score predictions? I'll go with you, Hamp.
Just before I comment on that, one comment on your guys' discussion about how Sony and Microsoft are playing this. I always like to refer to my favorite big tech event, Samsung versus Apple. Google marketing was also, very quiet, right, in comparison to their normal behavior during many phases while the Samsung Apple lawsuit was going on. Just many theorized out of an effort to not overly attract attention to themselves. All they knew Apple also had no desire to go head to head with Google, and Apple actually deliberately pursued a tactic of basically harassing Google's partners because that was much easier than going after Google and taking them on patent law itself. God of War. I think what was the Metacritic on the 2018 God of War? Was it like 90?
94.
93, 94? Yeah, 94. I think my prediction was like 89 or 90. I think it'll come in lower than 2018 God of War just because there is going to be that sentiment out there that it's partially derivative and still kind of built on the same design framework, which is to be expected. from 2018 to 2022, they're obviously working in the same engine. I wouldn't assume that they've created a ton of brand new assets and models, right? That there's a ton of reuse, but that the primary effort is on the new story, right? The extension of a story. And I also suspect, maybe not, literally like day to day, that this was also very much like a what I want to say, like a Peter Jackson's Lord of the Ring thing, or like a Superman 1, Superman 2 thing, where like a lot of the concept of what the sequel was going to be was laid out right from God of War. So I suspect it's going to come in kind of in the 87 to 90 area. What was the Metacritic aggregate on the Tlu remake?
Yeah, I think it was 88.
Yeah. 88.
So I think it'll be higher than that, but lower than God of War, because I think at the end of the day, most publications are going to try and size things up to be an argument for Game of the Year. Lots of publications do actually have rubrics and frameworks where they actually do look at running scores throughout the year and try and kind of put things on a curve and level set and make sure that they make some kind of sense. Although there are many who are not slaved to that type of mentality, and don't necessarily, they don't necessarily feel like their scores need to make sense at an aggregate. They think they're all for individual reviewers, but there are many who do try and kind of smooth the curve out and make sure that it looks, that it makes sense. So, but yeah, I think it'll be, above the Tlu remake, but below the 2018 God of War.
Okay. Forte, what do you think, man?
Tlu. Every time he says Tlu, I'm thinking Ty Lue that coaches.
Right, me too.
Like, where did Tlu come from? Oh man, we got the man. Shout out to the Clippers, but no, I really do kind of agree with him to an extent. I do think that it's still gonna hit a 90. I was sitting at 89, 90. Because if we're getting more of what we had before was amazing. It was great, and everybody should have played it, especially if you're a fan of God of War. So even if we got that, but just more stylized with the stuff that's going on in the game, and I still think it should still hit a 90. So I'm gonna go with a flat 90 on it. But I do think that there is going to be a lot of people out there that's going to be like, they're probably gonna say the story probably isn't as strong as the original, and I do think not every sequel can be as good as the original. Even if you take it to movie terms, you got like with the recent Top Gun and stuff, the original people love because they think the story was better, where it's just that the visual effects of the second one just makes it such a great looking movie for people to go see. And that's where the divide is. There hasn't been enough time between 2018 and now for a visual divide to happen. Yes, you'll be able to play this game on a newer console, yes, with better fidelity and stuff like that. But is the fidelity going to be that noticeably different compared to 2018? I don't think so. I think you'll feel it more on the performance side. And I think that's going to definitely matter to a lot of people. But for the people that's going to be reviewing this game, I do think, since it's not something brand spanking new like we got, in 2018, it's just going to be more of that. I do think that they're going to probably lower it a little bit, but I still think it's going to hit a 90 overall, and it should hit a 90 unless there's something drastically wrong about this game that doesn't live up to the faithfulness of what the original one in 2018 had along with it too.
Yeah, and one comment, maybe I'm interpreting the comments incorrectly. So just to be sure, I think everybody on the panel is talking about the official reviews, right, from websites, not talking about the user reviews. I think there are some people talking about fanboys and review bombing, and that, as far as I believe.
No, we're talking about like the aggregate score.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and most sites aren't going to have in some rare cases, you may have somebody who's like an Xbox editor review a PlayStation game, but most cases, right, it'll be their PlayStation editorial pit that'll be reviewing the game. So I don't think you're going to have people, official journalists, like review bombing it.
Shout out to Survivor. You'll see what they give it.
Oh, yeah, and US Gamers, the other one. So B Money, what are your predictions, man?
88.
88.
We're going 88 because that's the score that all
Yeah.
PlayStation games have been getting lately.
I was going to say
feel
that.
like
though.
just since this generation has started, I think effect of Game Pass has skewed some of these journalists as far as what they think value is when it comes to these games. And
That's
you know,
interesting.
PlayStation has been getting a little couple of notches knocked down on some of their scores. So I feel like it's going to come in 88, 89 at the highest. Just based on some of the sentiments, like I said, where a lot of previews are coming out saying, "Oh, this isn't the experience that everybody was hoping for." Just based on the first few hours that they played. So, if that narrative continues, and I think it's going to kind
Yeah.
of fall in line, at that 88 mark. So, I'm going with 88 because history is going to repeat itself.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do want to ask you, like you just said, the Game Pass route. What about Game Pass do you think is, contributing to that in your opinion, to like lower review scores and stuff?
Because I think when you start factoring in the cost of gaming, I
Okay.
think a lot of reviewers, bring that up as far as
The
if
value
it's a day one
proposition.
purchase, yeah, what I mean, if there's a value to the content, what I mean. So, this is a $60, $70 game, if you're buying it on PS5. So, when you're spending $70 on a game on PS5, you want to feel like it's a PlayStation 5 game. And if the narrative is that this doesn't feel like a PlayStation 5 game, that it's a PS4 game, then that value isn't there, at that price point. So I think it's going to be knocked down a little bit for that,
Dang.
which is it is what it is. I mean, people are going to have their opinion of what value is to them. So you just kind of have to keep that in mind. But I think that's why it's gonna end up in the 88.
Has any PlayStation exclusive this generation hit a 90 yet?
Nope.
Yeah.
I think Demon Souls did.
Yeah, Demon Souls was like a 92, I believe. You're right. But I think he's talking about games that like not remakes. He's talking about just newer titles, though. Probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no newer
Yeah, I haven't
title
seen any
has.
new titles really past 90. Yeah, they've been 88. I haven't seen a lot. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of 90s this generation either.
I mean, Elden Ring was the only one I really know of.
Yeah, Elden Ring. Yeah, but yeah. Let me get the super chat from Bulbor Country. $2 super chat says 88 year from Soft Demon Souls remake got a 9. Thank you for that super chat, Bulbor.
Got a 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 89 here. I don't think it's gonna live up to the 94. I think that's just a tough. The first God of War just really, to me, brought back the franchise from the disappointment of God of War. Was it Ascension? I think was the release before that, and it just much like I think Elden Ring kind of flipped the Souls, took the Souls formula to another level. I think God of War 2018 took that franchise to another level in a very good way, and I think that's going to be hard to duplicate, and I think it's going to be judged on that. But 88 is what I'm going with. That's still a really good score.
Wait, so am I the only person who said 89?
No, I think
No, yeah, I said 8. No, I said 90. I said 89, 90,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting on 90.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
the
Right,
one who said 89, Hamp.
yeah. Well, I gave a range. I think I said I think it said 89 to 91. But just for data point, right? The top scoring by Metacritic, first party games for this generation. Telu Remake is at 88, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is at 88, and Horizon Forbidden West is at 88. Those are the top 3 scores.
88.
I think we got our answer.
88.
Listen, man, I need this game to do better than an 88. I need to do a 92 so we can stop so we can forget about this price point of this VR that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is going to be. I think it is going to be against above 80 because I think whether they're looking at the aggregate score or just the score from their own site, I think people are going to tend to score this game right a notch above these 3 games because, well, I mean, first of all, I honestly believe that it will be better in at least graphical fidelity and and kind of the overall package. But know that they're going to regard it as like the greatest thing this generation.
Yeah. Another super chat from Bulbar Country, $2 super chat. Thank you, Bulbar. Says Elden Ring story is nonsense. It's bias. Thank you for that super chat, Bulbar. I'm not gonna dive into that.
Nobody plays Elden Ring for the story.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
Play Elden Ring for the experience of getting your ass kicked over and over and over again.
And exploration, all that other stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
So look, want to give a shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. Also want to give a shout out to the panel, B Money, Forte, and Hamp. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. We missed Slow-Mo tonight. I don't know where Slow-Mo is. Hopefully he's okay, Forte. Hopefully
he's in space.
He's in space. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think he didn't want to show up and be giving guff about not taking that bet on the Commanders not staying in the DC era.
The DC era, yeah.
Oh, shout out to the sale that's about to happen. Thank God.
I hope so. We'll see. I'm not convinced, but we'll see. So
well, maybe he can come up with a better price than PlayStation did.
Oh, but yeah. So
I'm just real messy with that.
That's funny, man.
It's just the most dumbest price point I've ever seen in my life. But okay,
we'll see if you keep that same energy when we're talking about the Xbox Series Y price next year.
Well, sir, I already made my decision point that Xbox probably won't get no more money out of me because I'm just gonna invest in PC going forward.
As you should.
I see.
As you should.
Why do that? Why spend money on something that you don't have to?
Exactly. As you should.
Unless they give you a main reason to. All of my friends are starting to convert over to PC. We got Luke over there. I just need one more person to do it, and then we'll be Gucci. So
There we go. So, look, again, everyone, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. B Money, let everyone know they can find you, man.
You can find me everywhere. Same name, B Money 101. That's it. I'll see you boys next week.
All right, B. See you next week. I got to talk to you about some shoes too, man. We'll talk offline about that. And then we got Hamp, Lee Hampton. Hamp, let everyone know they can find you, man.
Hey, over on the E2KG Network podcasting channel over on YouTube. Again, not a podcast for everyone. We don't focus on a lot of the sensationalism and whatnot, and kind of just report the news and give some theories on things that not everybody's interested in. So don't feel like I'm pushing you. I'm just putting the information out there. Then you can find me on Twitter under Hamp_Lee Hampton. And every couple of weeks on my own podcasting channel, on my own YouTube channel, Rounding Off Infinity, where we do a thing called the Infinity Panel every couple of weeks, where I invite personalities from around gamer Twitter to come on and leave their platforms and consoles at the door and have a little more grounded conversation about gaming.
By the way, great show with this past weekend on the Infinity Panel with Kay Asante and Fuzzy Belvedere. That was a really good show, man.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have the one, the only, the Gaming Forte.
Yo, first of all, you can find me tomorrow night at 9 p.m. irritating Slow-Mo Backslap as he comes back from outer space, and probably not muting him unexpectedly because I'm not hosting the show tomorrow. So come through for that. And then next Wednesday, or should I say next Tuesday at 11:59 p.m., you can catch me at GameStop selling this wonderful game called God of War that we'll be selling at midnight to everybody that wants to pick it up. It's gonna be a great time. And
lots of pre-orders.
Yeah, man. This week has been kind of crazy. Like last week, Call of Duty picked up in the last week. Like I can't even tell you how many pre-orders we had on Call of Duty last week. And then it's the same thing for God of War and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because those games are like a week apart from each other. And it's going to be a really good holiday, man. It's going to be a lot of good games coming out, and I think a lot of people are really, really excited. I think the only thing that sucks is, once again, PlayStation not wanting to do pre-orders in stores in North America sucks when it comes to these freaking VR systems. But That's okay. I guess they could be greedy and keep all the money to themselves. But outside of that, man, it's been great. But other than that, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games you're playing, and catch you out next week.
And set aside a couple 3090s for me and BRAP.
Yes, please. Yes, if you get any 3090s, sir, any PCs.
What's up with this 39? Oh, well, you had the opportunity not even a month ago.
Just keep an eye out, man. Just keep an eye out.
Yeah, you had the opportunity a month ago, and I was trying to sell you a whole goddamn PC.
Things change, man. Things change. You know, situations are fluid.
But for real though, when you get 4090s, when you get systems with 4090s in them, we do need a pre-sale heads up.
Okay, I will definitely do that, and my Venmo, my Cash App, my PayPal will be available for you.
We got you.
All right, let's do it.
Forte's actually great to do business with, by the way. I've had numerous transactions with Forte. He's a gentleman and a scholar.
Painless.
Hey, we got that tax return money coming, man.
We do have the tax return money. Yeah. Although I'll probably end up owing again.
Right along with that, $10,000 they're forgiving on student loans. Let's go.
Right. But all right, gentlemen. Thank you again, everyone in the live chat. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the week I should say, playing video games, and have fun. Because remember, that's what video game or gaming is all about: having fun. So we'll see you then.
Yep. See you guys then. I heard that what's name turned Twitter into
a
game, so it might actually be a game now.
What? Come on, Elon Musk. All right, everyone, we're out. Bye.
Yeah, Elon Musk turned it into a game now. Pay to win, $20 per month.